Right. Attempt number 2.
Don't see my audio moving. Why don't you work? If this doesn't work, I'm going on my phone. I'm putting my foot down. But let's see if it does before I do that. Can you hear me? Oh my gosh. We have audio. I'm like, is this thing on? I 100% sound, I feel like that. Oh my God. Oh, yes. Okay, let's see this. Can you hear me now? Can you still hear me?
It's still a go. Okay, great. Well, let me know if it goes weird. I don't know what's happening with that. That happened to me yesterday. So, sometimes we all just need a little bit of time to gather ourselves and, don't give up and just keep going. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience and for being here. Yeah. What's everyone up to this morning? I'm drinking my coffee, which you couldn't hear me say yesterday earlier when I had no audio. Does anyone else have anything you're drinking? I guess it might not. It's probably not morning in a lot of your places. And then, yeah, where are you watching from? That's always something that's really interesting. This is water that I'm drinking also, but it has some like vitamin C electrolytes. Oh, 2 p.m. And where is it 2 p.m. currently in the world? Oh, okay. Major hydration station for the 64-ounce bottle of water. I think that's half a gallon, isn't it? Oh, 111. Oh, maybe it was serendipitous, right? Or that I actually went live at 11:11. Oh my gosh, South Africa, 8 p.m. Oh, the Netherlands, East Coast. I love it. Um, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the one thing I've really been practicing is like when something doesn't work out, I mean, like I can be very earth-minded practical. So if I have like a plan in action and it goes awry, like my partner really helps me see like, okay, well, potentially what I thought I knew, maybe that's actually not what's good for me. So letting that flow. Because like in this case, it's 11:11, and where does that lead me versus where do I think I should start? And releasing that rigidity to that, which allows, I think, for magic to happen. Oh my gosh, Turkey. Oh, I love the Pacific Northwest. I've been doing a lot of hiking, which I never thought I'd be a person to like want to go walk, run a trail, but I put theta brainwaves on and I just kind of move, and it's really meditative for me. I think also too tapping into allowing my body to move since I come from such a background of using my body very machine like with my background in track and field. Um, and then speaking, somebody talked about the Netherlands. Oh, wow. Brazil, Chicago. I hear like it's 100 days of summer, right? That's like your 100 good days of weather. And Sweet Warrior, I'm sure you know about the heat right now in the Pacific Northwest. I'm from Texas, obvious. Well, I don't know, it's obvious, but and it's hot and humid. Um, so it's now actually hot here in the Pacific Northwest. Okay, well, we have a question already starting off. And yeah, feel free to put in questions. I'll do the best I can. Last week was my first time practicing, so it kind of gets wild, but y'all can talk amongst yourselves if you have. Sometimes every once in a while an accent will come out. My dad actually has a pretty intense West Texas accent, so certain words sometimes. But yeah, my mom has no accent, so they're both from Texas. Um, but yeah, if y'all have questions about something, feel free to put them in here. I'll do the best I can to keep going through and answering them. They can be personal to me, they can be about what's going on with you, they can be about a theoretical, philosophical thing. But I'm going to go to, I don't know if it's Hana Hana or Hannah Hannah. My, I'm thinking it says things blew up with my SP this week, and now he's not talking to me. What should I do because nothing is going the way I want? Okay, just a casual start off the morning here. The first thing I'd ask is, what meaning are you giving this relationship or him? Like, I think you said him, right? Yeah. So, like, when he is not there, now that things have blown up, and I don't know what that means in terms of intensity, something intense could have happened. But really, the thing you want to look at is how it's making you feel. So, I mentioned earlier about like, nothing's going the way I want to, right? When I personally start getting into that, like releasing how I think it should go and allowing the universe or, God or whatever it is that you believe, to collaborate, because usually you plus that equals something magic. If it's just what you're wanting and you're so rigid on it, that's a lot of times where we create our own suffering. Um, so if you can give me a little bit more information about what that means, but specifically start rather than looking out there. This is also no matter what's going on in your life, whether it be about money, whether it be about a friend, whether it be about a romantic partner. When the thing out there happens, where does your attention go? Where does your energy go? Are you automatically out there? Because if you're outside of you, who is with you? And if you're making your happiness and your contentment and um, your path, if it's contingent upon having this other thing, well, then what you're going to see, because then you're like, oh no, I have to have this thing to go on, or without him, I'm not this. So if it's you plus this equals wholeness, then what you're reflecting right now is you plus that you is not, right? Like, so if this thing is removed in your equation, in your mind, in your belief, and a belief is basically something you accept to be true. I kind of think about a lot of assumptions fortifying a belief. Like a lot of assumptions create a belief. So is it Hana Hana that you believe, or Hannah Hannah, that you believe that without this person or without a relationship, you won't have happiness or that you are missing something? I can personally say that for me in the past, yes, that's how I was orchestra or navigating life. And so when I would have a disruption in my relationship, my whole life would turn upside down. I'm not saying that that's what it's like for you, but I'm just saying potentially like start looking to see if that applies, how it applies. What significance and meaning are you giving this person in your life? Is your life completely disrupted if they're not in it? I don't know if that helps. Let me go back to the chat and see what's going on here. So Hannah, Hannah, if that helped, let me know. If that's like way off base, also let me know. Okay. Okay, so Save, I sometimes I'm like, I see words or like y'all's names, and I think I know how to say it until I try it out loud in front of y'all, and then I'm like, oh God, okay. So Save 19 or 9, Suave 9. Sometimes, okay, we'll just go with it. I just had the biggest realization that my SP is a reflection of my mother reject neglect. Okay, again, maybe I need some more coffee here. Hang on. Okay, basically what I'm getting from this is this person just had a giant realization, potentially paradigm shift, because now you're able to see the situation in a new way, which gives you the ability to create a new meaning. That the person that they're in, the specific person in their life is reflecting the rejection and neglect from their mother. For one, you've already done a lot of the battle, which is to be aware, like, oh my God, like, yeah, this feels really familiar because I felt this before. And so you've already done a huge, massive thing. So now what you can do is continue to identify, even if you can't move out of it right now, just identifying it, because it diffuses it, because since it's from two since it's the same thing from a different part. The other thing too is when you feel this neglect and you already have a history of it, the intensity of it inside of you is so much more, because that's not the first time. So anytime you're having these really intense um, experiences, whether it be about neglect or abandonment or just fear and anxiety, and maybe the external situation doesn't seem to be that intense, and people are like, whoa, why are you responding like that? Don't feel like bad or guilty or shameful about it. Realize, oh, this is probably about something else, right? Like if you had a bag and it was full, like say you had a bag of like 15 books that are like, thick and it's heavy, but to the other person, they've seen nothing go in the bag. So they think, oh, the bag's empty. Well, them putting a couple bags in it, or them putting a couple books in it to make it heavy, they'd be like, "Why are you freaking out? It's not that heavy. I've only put two books in it." Well, the weight that you're already carrying from these unhealed wounds is weighing you down, so that when you're like, oh, those people, have this situation with a person, you're like, oh God, that hurts so much. Well, realize that there's already pre-existing hurt there. So what can you do? You're already doing a great job. You're becoming aware of it. There's a great book called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. It's really helpful to see what you needed as a kid. And that to me helped me fill in a lot of dots and connect a lot of things to be like, oh, okay, that's what I needed. This is what I got. That's why it hurts so much. And really, the universe, in my opinion, is asking you to feel. When you can start feeling and open yourself up to feeling that pain that potentially you've been running away from, and then in turn looking for outside of you to accept and embrace you so that you would feel whole and complete. Well, in that meantime, you basically have been neglecting and rejecting yourself. So starting to just observe, just look back and see that. Okay. Okay. I don't know if it's Mamie. I'm so sorry about name pronunciations. If I mean this in no offensive way. Okay, so their question is, main question. When you say you practice being a successful athlete, how much of that was action oriented? Did you do a lot of training every day? Did you sort of get into the zone of it? That's an interesting question. A good question. I mean, really, any question is a good question. So just know that that's the world I'm coming from, because also too, when you ask a question, it helps me think about it in a different way. So both learning. Being a successful athlete, so yes, I mean, basically you could think of it this way: going to practice every day was me attempting to be in that state, right? Practicing at that higher level, and a lot of it was me mentally, emotionally, and psychologically being there before I actually physically did it. So I feel like the physical is always the last step, in my opinion. That doesn't mean it has to be a long, slow, arduous procedure. It just means that the other ones have to be there before physical. Because, I mean, you could look at electromagnetics, you could look at just and the neurology of it and like your brain circuitry of it. And I mean, sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, like if you just watch any of the Olympic games, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that this is happening. Well, they spent so much time deeply, deeply in visualization, that they really, like, any sort of like standards are kind of washed aside because you're only concentrating on you being at that level. And then when it physically manifests, you're like, oh my God, I didn't know me being that level in my, entity would actually break the world record or win a gold medal. It's not that they weren't doing it, it's that they were so focused on who they were being, the thoughts that they were feeling, being in the successful high level athlete realm, that they weren't looking at other people, they weren't looking at other people's standards. So that's why a lot of times, like, you see people cross the finish line or throw a throw and they're like, oh my God. Because also too, it's hard to believe, but they've been believing it. Everything in their whole entire life has been structured around the beliefs that they would do it. So it's really the physical body, like, living it is the last step. I don't know if that makes sense. So yeah, a lot of it too was, even when I was like not a great thrower, when I was like, I went from a top level college, a really high level high school athlete, to good college athlete, to bad, like really underperforming, to elite world athlete. And the differences were my self esteem and my self worth, and the pressure that I started to feel to be like perform. And it really started to make me question, was I even capable? And I felt like a, what is it, imposter syndrome. And I think imposter syndrome, a lot of the times we think, oh no, we are fake because we're pretending to be this person that we're not. But really, the pretending is that you are not it. We're actually lying to ourselves that we should be in doubt of our ultimate potential. Like, if you have like this inkling, this itch, this thing that won't go away about your potential, it's there for a reason. There are people there, you guys on here today, like you could tell me your dreams and feel free to like share what it is that like really lights your heart up. Like to me, it's sharing, learning information, getting so excited, seeing these different patterns, then coming and being like, oh my gosh, guys, I have got something that's so exciting because look at how these dots, like they're the same. They're the same like essence, but they're saying it in different words. Maybe I can share it with you and that would be valuable. Like this is what I really want to do. So me starting to be that. And yes, action is involved because, thoughts and feelings birth action. It's like, oh, like I want to do this. Like this is actually making it better. Like thinking about, I've seen some videos that are like, sit on a couch, don't lift a finger, and have your dreams come true. And it's like, would the version of you that is so alive and this thing wants to come out of you, would they really want to sit on a couch? And I'm not saying that that's anybody here, but just that idea that you want to be passive about it. And then, ta da, this thing just shows up at your door. In my opinion, if it's your passion, if it's like this lights me up and like I love to do this, your thoughts and your feelings, you're going to be like radiating it. It's like you won't not want to do it. So starting to move that way, and even though the external might not feel there yet, I still did show up every day. I still did look at the marks. I still did give it my all. I lifted weights. Because I was practicing that being, and the physical was the last step. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk today. I even got goosebumps on that one. I was like so fired up. I want you all to have and like have those paradigm shifts, have the realizations. Oh, thank you. My David Bowie. I need to lift him and elevate him. Um, oh, great point. You can control your emotions. Um, and that's a great thing. It's not what happens, it's how you respond to what happens is another thing. Going back to Hannah. Okay, I'm gonna go try to go up here. How do you feel about people who say you must visualize? Any advice on how to deal with SP when in contact daily, but in no desired way, but not in the desired way? Oh, okay. Reading is so helpful when you read the words that are there. Sometimes my brain is like, goes so fast. I'm like, this one. I'm like, that's not actually what it says. Um, Yes, visualizing is important because of what it does for your brain, because it helps create the neurological connections so that it feels more natural. If you're trying to feel something that isn't there, like that you're not like connected to, it's going to be harder. So really visualization kind of gives you like a nitro like supercharge to help you get there. Um, the thing I would say about they're contacting you but not in the desired way, look and see, like Hannah earlier said, oh my God, I just realized this connection. Most likely, if you're continually experiencing and you're wanting this person, this situation, this experience, but you can't quite get there, or it's a part of your life, but not in the desired way, I'd look to see, did you have somebody in your past? Were you told that you can't get what you want? Were you shown that you don't deserve love? Like there are these themes of unworthiness and feeling that you're not, like, I guess, unworthy of love, that sort of thing. So, do you feel rejected? Do you feel not good enough? Do you feel invisible? This is for DD. That's what it says. I think that's all it says. Yeah. So, what are the feelings it's making you feel? Like, these are all like secret passageways to get to what you really believe. So, when you see how it's manifesting outside of you, because you're manifesting, follow the string back to the origin. Belief is something you accept to be true. Even if you're like, I want this person to be with me, this person's great, and I really think we got this thing, that doesn't make that not true. You kind of got to put that aside and say, okay, what is this circumstance? What is this making me feel? Okay, what would I need to believe to feel this way? Oh, I'm not worthy. I don't feel like I'm worthy of love, or that I deserve to get the things that I want. Those are some of mine. I didn't think that. I'm like, I'm going to go get this person. Oh, we're going to be together. And then I would try to force it. And let's see, I'm trying to think. Okay, it'd be like this. If right now you have an idea about yourself, it's this cup of coffee, and you're holding on to it. And I did this similar example in my last video. And if you're not, why you're not manifesting what you want. So if you have this, I feel like I'm going to drop it. If you have this in your hand right now, and you're like, okay, this is basically deep down feeling like you're not like you are going to be rejected, that you aren't lovable, that you're unworthy, right? So then you have this experience. It's like almost glowing on my camera. I guess it's anyway, I'm like, oh. But anyway, you have this thing. Look at that, like high vibration up, better thought, like higher levels of emotion and consciousness and higher, lower levels of brain waves. So you're more relaxed. So you want this thing. You're like, oh my God, this is like the best. I really want it. You're like, okay, I'm just okay. If I can get it, why can't I get it? This is, and you try to go towards it. Well, clearly, I'm gonna carefully put this belief down. For one, you have to identify, oh my God, I'm holding on to this belief. I need to surrender this, hand over, basically possession of it. And I'm gonna be courageous enough to put that down. And this is associated with a lot of, it could be personality, like, oh no, I like to be on my own. I'm an independent person. Those are all good things. But if you're doing it in a protection mechanism, if you're being clingy, codependent, trying to make it, trying to do 100% of the work, and the other person's not doing any, you have to surrender these ideas, these beliefs, these assumptions, put them down, and then you can much more easily experience this because this is your belief. So if I'm looking at the camera now, that's reflected back. But if I'm holding on to this and I'm looking out and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try harder. I'm going to affirm more that this is the white water cup glass thing, whatever vessel. I don't bottle. It's the white bottle. It's the white bottle. It's the water. I've got water in my hand. You can see that, oh, I'm putting my willpower in the wrong place. I need to set this down. Now, when I realize, oh, this is the mechanism that creates the power, now I can pick that up. So that's a really long-winded way to answer that. And let me know if that helped. It didn't help. I'm always curious to see how you guys um, respond to my examples because I think in pictures. So I'm starting to embrace that more. Okay, Hannah, he was calling me names and calling me mad. I'm guessing, I think that mad means like crazy or like, because here mad means like angry, but I'm thinking that means like you're like, oh, like something's wrong. Call him an idiot and stood up for myself. So Hannah, I would look to see, or Hannah, I would look to see, did you have that dynamic when you were younger in some way, shape, or form? Did you feel like someone was pushing you down? Did you feel like you didn't have power? Did you feel like you had to rise up? Because right now you're having this dynamic that somebody's like, no, you're bad, you're wrong. And you're like, oh, I have to stand up and be on my own. And when that happens, they leave. That is not true that when you stand up for yourself and you have a boundary that people will leave. It's not absolutely like that's not objectively true. 100% it's happening in your situation, but it does not mean that in the potential of life that exists. But I would look to see what your origin would be. Okay. Okay. Here's some good stuff. Tips for improving self concept. Oh, now it went up. Character from a TV show, model myself after them, didn't even realize it, and now I pick up new hobbies, makes me feel great. Yeah, exactly. That's a great thing. Like, look out into the world. I had this question the other day on a comment. Look out into the world and say, okay, like somebody said, I am really having a really hard time feeling. God, I get so distracted on the comments. I'm having a hard time feeling something I've never felt. That makes total sense, right? Yeah, you've never felt it. So how do you feel it? Feels like, kind of like a catch 22. And so what the thing would be like, okay, well, let's look out into the world. What is it that you admire? What if you're like, that person, like for me, I love David White. He's a Welsh poet, and I just think he's so the way he words things, the way he makes me feel from his writing, it's just so beautiful. So looking out and say, oh, okay, I like that. I like how this person like allows this creative, poetic thing to flow out of them and how it makes them feel, how it makes me feel and other people feel. So starting to use that, okay, character from a TV show. Okay, this person's really bold, but they're also sensitive and compassionate. Okay, this person's really fearless and they really go after what they care about. Using those, looking back into your past, you ask yourself, okay, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. Who would I need to be? How would I move through the world? What would I need to embody to be in this character? because that's really what it is. And I'll show this. So I do tarot. I don't read tarot, but I have tarot cards, right? So this is essentially, and I'm going to do this on another video so you get a sneak peek. Um, but yeah, so imagine that. Let's see if I can get the lighting. Imagine that all of these things are different states of being. You've got the Page of Pentacles. This is the weight, and all of these, right? You have like the major arcana. So like you've got the Page of Pentacles. This is just for example. You got the Hierophant, King of Cups. Now, why am I saying this? Because these are all essentially character. Like think of this person and how like you can look this up online and it would be like a list of attributes, right? Oh, okay. I'm going to be the page of or Knight of Cups. Okay, we'll compare that with the Hierophant. Basically, this is the same way it works for who it is that you can be, who it is that you need to be. Like, so maybe the Knight of Cups has that relationships that you really, really want. And the Hierophant is able to manifest this rich and abundant physical resources. Well, the attributes of this, how this person moves in the world, how this person moves in the world, they're going to be different. None of them are wrong or bad, but they're going to have different attributes, the way that they talk, the way that they move, the way that they think, the people that they attract, the ways that they feel about themselves. So, how do you move through these things, right? If you think about an electromagnetic level, the way that I choose on who I'm going to be is my thoughts and feelings. So, you basically, the thoughts and feelings you have are moving this and your ability to choose whatever one. So, whatever I think, want to think over here, okay, I have to have the thoughts and feelings over here to move it. If I'm just thinking of this card, I should switch them around. If I'm thinking of, oh, the moon, very emotional. If I'm thinking of the moon, but I'm feeling over here as a Hierophant, I won't be able to move it. I have to think and feel in order to do it. I don't know if that makes sense, but again, give me feedback. Can we go down? Okay. I just got more of Hana. Okay. I always felt not good enough and I had to work hard for my dad to validate me. And I always fight for his attention and my dad's approval when I was younger. So this doesn't surprise me. It doesn't make it easy for you, but that is where your self concept needs, um, I would say, is asking for attention. It's asking for your love and your attention because, and I totally understand this. Like I can absolutely understand that you want a parental validation. That's one thing that has been hard and has been a learning process for me. But if you're over here and you're looking for this person's attention and you want this person's validation, you've made all of it about them. In that process, you've neglected yourself. And so I don't know how old you are, but that is a process to be like, okay, I give me validation. I'm listening to me because I'm listening to me and I know that this is true. I'm staying with me regardless of what this person, I love and respect them. However, my thoughts and my feelings, and I give myself my own validation. Yes, it feels good to get support. Yes, it feels good to have that support, but realizing that where that hurt and that wound is coming from. Okay, and then 25. Okay, so old enough to basically start realizing, okay, you're no longer a child. Um, yeah, you're right. It is hard to not have support, and and when you're, as a child, you're growing up with your parents as like, okay, these two people or one person or whoever it is that you grew up with, right? A guardian, whatever. This person basically has my life in their hands. I trust them so much because if I don't trust them, what am I going to do? Live on the streets as a 4-year-old? Like that's not an option. Nor is it like reasonable, right? So you put your whole trust in them, thinking that they know best because you have to have that full faith. So if you don't question to say, "Oh, you know what? My dad or my mom, my guardian, they're a human being and they actually have their wounds and if they didn't address their wounds, it's like if you don't heal your wounds, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you kind of a thing, right? Um, I feel like there's a better way to say that, but I think you get the gist of it. Um, look into your see your life look to into your life right now to see where you can get support, even if it's a small amount, even if it's a friend who you don't really know well, but you feel good and supported and loved around them. I always question myself why, whether especially why doesn't my special treat me well? And now I remember I used to question myself because my dad never used to treat me well. I mean, for one, I want to say I love you. You deserve to be treated well. It's hard because I know that parents are doing the best they can, and a lot of times they cause us some trauma, and they are not there the ways we need them. And dealing with that and the emotions that it's given you, um, is difficult because it's like you don't want to be mad and resentful to them for your own sake, but also too you do have some things that they did. And the one thing I would say is like making this less about, because if you stay stuck in the idea of when that person brings you validation, then I'll feel better. When I feel supported from them, then I'll feel supported. You have to start and be the origin. Start feeling, okay, am I with me no matter if they validate me? What would it be like to feel validated? What would it feel like for me to validate myself? What do I need to validate myself? How can I treat myself well? Because think about that. If you're looking to be treated well, are you treating yourself well? What is the relationship you have with yourself? Are you allowing other people to talk poorly to you? Do you talk poorly to yourself? So those are the things that I would ask. Okay. Hello, Abby. Okay, I was wondering what you think of listening to affirmations while sleeping. Recent trend, recent trend. Yeah, it does. I will say that affirmations while you're sleeping is powerful because I've talked about it before, right? Theta brainwave, that's like the gateway to the subconscious. Then you go to delta, so you're very impressionable. Between like when you're really little, you're actually in delta brainwave, which is sleep, and you are impressionable. I don't know the science about if you're more impressionable at delta or if you're more impressionable at theta, or if the reason why brain sleep affirmations work is because you're listening to them through theta. I don't know. I can do more research on that though. I need more coffee. Hang on a second. I get distracted by the chats and then I'm like, wait, that's not where your thoughts were. Also, too, I want to say thank you all for being here. I love you guys. Like, this is so fun to me to just hang out and chat and like it's so much easier for me to talk things than type, but I'm like, when y'all make comments, I try to cat type it out, but sometimes I get all, yes. And Allie B, you're right. I suggest to, who was it? Other Abby, to do it in your own voice. And yeah, like the other thing too is somebody asked earlier about, do you have to visualize or no, about moving in the world, like the actions you take. So the person, the Abby, the other Abby, um, who's making the affirmations, saying them, writing them down potentially, saying them, and then listening to them. Think about the action that Abby is taking and what it's in alignment with to that version of Abby that Abby wants to have and why she's listening to the affirmations. You know what I mean? Like taking direct action, being in alignment, and then that whole thing starts to braid together to create that new reality because your literal brain is so powerful. It's blocking out the opportunities right now that you're dreaming of. Literally, okay, I'm going to keep using my amazing example. Like, okay, okay, I'll use this because it's vertical. It would be like if I'm over here and I have like thoughts and feelings that are over here. Say this is low self worth, right? I don't know why I'm pushing all my nose. Not necessary. But all my brain is looking for is this stuff. So I see a coffee cup and I'm like, oh God, I really wish that I had water. Water is here the entire time, but until I start opening my awareness to it, you won't be able to see the thing that you want so bad that you're trying to bring into the world. It already exists. It's about you. Let me go back to my magical tarot example. You, thoughts and feelings, oh, this is the reality I want. And then if maybe you get there and you're like, that's not quite what I want. And then you can adjust more, right? Like your in manifestation, in my opinion, doesn't really exist because you're always learning and growing and evolving. Okay, Abby, can you talk about the dark night of the soul? I mean, what better question than a loaded question? Like, I want to go deep. I do like to talk about, like, I can talk to a wall really, but I really love to talk about like the goods. Like, don't we want to connect? Like, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna pretend that I don't wanna talk about deep stuff. Obviously, I'll watch my channel. Okay, I'm feeling and also too, like, if we're all uncomfortable, like, if we were all sitting down in a room and there was, like, a pin and we're like, "Hmm, no, I'm fine. It's great. It's good. Yeah. So, how's your day today?" Like, we're all pretending that this pain isn't existing. Wouldn't it be better to be like, "Oh my God, this pain, you too? Oh my God, this thing is so uncomfortable. How do you think we can?" And then we're using all of our brains to figure out this riddle as opposed to pretending it doesn't exist. And we're all in silent pain. That is a major thumbs down. Um, what if you don't remember a lot of your childhood or it seems like there's no source Oh, no source for a wound in childhood. Well, your brain is very clever and it's going to block out things that it does remember. Now, 100% I hear what you're saying. Yet you do not remember. I that is yes, I hear you and I believe you. And what I'm saying is your brain still has a memory of it, but it is blocking it out because it's too painful. And this is actually, I'm still working through this, Vital Lies and Simple Truths. And basically, this book has a lot to talk about regarding that on how we, if something's too stressful for us, will actually bring in our vision. So it blocks out our awareness of that. It's still causing us stress. And if you have any physical ailments that have been really, they flare up at certain times, probably stressful times or emotionally intense times. For me, I have a left shoulder issue. Well, it comes and goes depending on what it is. And there's actually, I'm going to write it in here. There's, let's see, there's a website, flowsandforms.com backslash, I think it says your body light. Hang on a second. Because this one's really interesting. Like, it stopped me in my tracks. Um, I always get scared to like change the page. 'Cause I'm like, please don't leave me. I don't want to lose this. We're having a conversation. I don't want to just bail accidentally. Okay, I'm going to go up a little bit. Hmm. Oh, okay, Dark Night of the Soul. I completely lost my train of thought. I'm sorry because I was in the middle of talking about the wounds of a child, the childhood wounds. So the one thing that will help you is kind of like what's happening right now, what you're struggling with emotionally, psychologically, what's causing you stress, or especially when it keeps coming up, the themes, right? Like earlier, Hannah was saying that, oh, this person is doing these things, and it's like, oh, wait a second, this person did those things, and then earlier, I forgot the screen name, Saw 9 Suave. I'll work on my reading comprehension, my reading ability. But they were saying, "Oh my God, I just had this realization. This rejection is so much like this rejection. There are these themes, and you're the common denominator. That does not make you bad. It doesn't make you wrong. It means that there's a wound that's being reflected again in your outside world. And it also doesn't mean that this other person who is like signing up to treat you poorly is like, all right, well, you're there to help me with my wound, so you can treat me shitty. That's not okay. What I'm saying is realizing what's happening as opposed to taking your anger out on them or sadness out on them or hurting from them and realize, oh, okay, these things are there to get me to see me. Okay, what is it that I'm afraid to feel? What is this making me feel? And just sitting with it. You have the answers inside. So that it will become more clear as you're willing to embrace it. It's, people talk about inner child a lot. It's like, what is the part of you that was abandoned or neglected or hurt? Are you willing to hold that within you? Are you willing to be the adult or the caregiver that you always wanted for yourself? Okay. Okay. I just got to, oh man, the chat is, I get somewhere and it's like, boom, it changes. But I do love that. I'm an Aries. So 75% of my chart is fire. So I definitely, sometimes people are like, "You talk too fast," and I'm like, "I am trying to keep up with the thoughts that are going through my mind." Mars and Mercury in Aries. It's quick in here. It's quick in here. It's hard to, to sometimes get stuck. Um, let's see. Okay. Okay. Manifest. I Sam X Sarah. Manifestate? Okay, anyway, they say hello. If I'm used to being attracted to people who reject me, how can I find people who choose me as interesting and not ultimately dull? Well, there's already a belief that's being revealed. I'll do a side tangent here. People have asked a bit about coaching, and obviously, I've opened it up to working one on one. And this is one thing that helps. And I have somebody I work with to help me see my blind spots. Because when I read this question, um, how can I stop being attracted to people who reject me? How can I find people who choose me as interesting and not ultimately dull? Like, there's already so many things that are revealing belief. So that's one thing that helps in working together is that I'm able to like let you know what's going on that you might be. It's like, what do they say? You can't see the forest for the trees. Like you can't read because your face is too close to the page. I think we all have blind spots, and having somebody guide us through or help us see us and what we're doing in the moment can help us then see, on your own, you being more aware and then making new choices. Um, and that's my spiel on working together. If I'm used to being attracted to people who reject me, how can I find people who choose me as interesting and not ultimately dull? So I'm taking this as, if I'm used to being attracted to people who reject me, already look there. Do you reject yourself? Because if you're getting a thing, a manifestation, a reflection that they reject you, do you accept you? Are you looking for them to accept you so that you accept you? And being real with yourself about that. I personally found lots of interactions and relationships that perpetually rejected me emotionally, maybe physically, so much. And I realized, oh, I was making it so much about them and them accepting me. I abandoned myself, and I was so self rejecting and self abandoning. I couldn't help but find all these fantastic examples of rejection outside of me. How can I find people who choose me as interesting and not ultimately dull? Do you find yourself interesting? Do you think you're dull? Like, those are the things that I would, ask about yourself. And because I am, if you guys are interested in working together, I put the link to my um, schedule to work together. So just putting it there. There's no pressure, obviously, but if you are interested in it, I'm just so excited um, to help and share what I've been taught and what I've picked up along the way. Okay. Okay. It's just that I found hard time applying SP money videos to something like wanting to get a high rank in a competitive video game. But since you have experience with something similar, I turned to you. Well, thank you. Um, Again, I get distracted because I keep reading. I'm like, eyes, focus. Um, the one thing I'll say is yes. So, that's something I'm working with. Like I do my best to say, hey, you know what? I don't know everything. I'm learning and working. And as I'm doing that, I'm doing my best to share it with you and being transparent of where I have issues. Obviously, I've talked about jealousy and envy. That's been a really hard lesson or hard lessons in my life. Self rejection, self abandonment, seeing how shifting out of that completely has changed what I see reflected now back in my life, specifically in regards to relationship. When I accepted myself, when I no longer accepted, and really when I saw how dangerous it was for me to self reject, it was like something inside that was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And I saw a massive shift in the the relationship that I then attracted. But yeah, so for me in this YouTube, right, like I am consistently working on how I see myself, who I think I am, what I think I'm capable of, my worth and my value that I see in me. And as I make more room from that, and as I remove limitations and put those down, I don't know why coffee is the limiting symbol today, but as I put those down, then it opens space for me to embrace that which already exists. So, in terms of competitive video games, look and see what it is that you're most afraid of. Are you afraid that you won't make it? Are you afraid that you're not good enough? And just keep asking questions. Why is that? Oh, okay. Well, if I fail and if I don't do it, then I think that people won't blah, 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 or I won't be blah, blah, blah. You have the answers. The more you start asking, you'll be surprised at what you already know. And you're like, oh my God. Another thing too is to sit quietly. I go in nature a lot right now, and that's why I like to run and listen to theta brainwaves. Run, walk. Let's not be crazy. I'm not a full-fledged runner, but sometimes my body wants to do that, and I just let it do it. And and what it does is I ask myself questions, and it's like, okay, what did? Oh, wow! And these gentle the answers come up. I'm like, what? Why did you not tell me that before? And it's like, well, you didn't ask. So be brave enough to ask the questions of what is it that you're, are you afraid of being a high rank competitive? What would it mean about you? And what does it mean if you're not? Really, what does it mean if you're not? Will get you a lot of the answers. Okay. Yeah, I'm just seeing, so I don't have a moderator today. Um, okay. Hang on just a second. Let me, I'm trying to catch up because I see some situations in which I do not like. Okay, if more come up, let me know. I'll do my best to in the future to have. Oh, and I will say that in the future, I am planning something to have a special guest and to have like basically a special like it would be like we start out with a meditation kind of practice exercise and then we'll move into questions and stuff, but I think especially too like I came from a like meditation, that's not really my vibe, I don't know how to do it. So my thing here is to like share as much as I can. So in the future I am looking to have a special guest, and we'll open up it with like a meditation exercise to kind of connect more with yourself and teach you how. And then also too, we'll move into questions and hang out and story time, wherever we flow, and hopefully have a moderator because I don't know, we got some creeps, people. And that's another thing too. When people are hurting, they kind of want to go and smash things around them. So being compassionate, but also having boundaries, But yeah, are you guys interested in, oh, oh boy. I mean, like, it's really wild, how people just come in. You're like, how did you get in here? How did you get in? Why are you here? So sorry about that, guys. I'm doing my best to get this out of here. And yeah, is it Mamie? Me? Anyway, yeah, believing you are something, having faith. And faith is, this is actually a great thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Okay, faith is like when you have faith in something, you can have faith in a fear, you can have faith in what you want to come out. Think about that. You're here and you're like, okay, these two things could happen. I'm going to put faith. Where do I want to put it? It's the same amount of energy. You're both times using your imagination, and both times you're putting something in something that's invisible. So it's not like, oh, if I put my faith in the thing that I want to happen is going to happen, is going to cost me more. You're literally doing the same amount of work. So might as well have faith. Put your trust that this thing's going to happen. And if things don't quite work out, then you can adjust rather than like, all right, well, probably what's really going to happen is it's all going to fall apart. It's not going to work out because I never really get what I want. And then it just snowballs from there. So that was a really great point about believing. And believing is accepting something to be true. Creating room that you can accept the worth being reflected back to you in proportion to like your capacity versus what you've dealt with in the past. And also look back, like what situations in your life have made you feel unworthy? That's another great thing too to start there. Okay, yeah. I mean, I had some experiences growing up where it was like, a parent bought something from me and, they were being funny at the time. And it was like, oh, you're expensive. And it was just like, my meaning at that time was like, oh gosh, I've done something wrong. I've taken up too much space and I wanted to be really small. And now opening up space to receive financial, just energy, physical resources coming back to me. Oh my God. Why are people just like trolling? It's really. So I hope this is making sense for everybody. Yeah, that's a great point. JC925. Opening up to receiving is harder than many realize. And really, I mean, and I hear you and I agree with you. The one thing that's helped for me is just saying, oh, okay, if you were going to go and you haven't ran in a while, like, and you go out and run, you're like, whew, this is like, it's not that fun, right? It maybe feels harder than if you sat on the porch or whatever. But it's like, well, it's not hard. It's just something you're not used to doing. If you're doing curls and you're like, oh man, I can only do, the little ones, but I really want to do the big ones. And it's like, well, it's just a process. So potentially create like removing the hard and just like, oh, anything you haven't really practiced, maybe it's painting, maybe it's poetry, maybe all of those things, it just takes practice and working through it. So again, I have tried my best to shift out of it's hard because boom, right away you put a hurdle in there. um but yeah. Oh, you know what I can do in the future too is I can do it just to subscribers and not to the public. So this should actually be able to stop. I just realized why that would be helpful in the future. See, trying things out, and we're already learning so much. But yeah, wow, this person's like really, really adamant about things. But anyway, let's see other questions. But yeah, in the future, guys, I will make sure that it is just subscribers and not public, which should be completely eradicate this. Let's see. I was watching a video from Quasi on how not to necessarily believe, but your faith will take you where you need to be, and I found that to be helpful. Yeah, I mean, and again, it's how you view that, right? So it's like faith and belief. Like you're putting faith, you're putting like the future of what you're going to accept to be true. Um, so, and it could be words that have like a negative connotation. So, using other ones like, oh, it's going to be, um, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be harder. It's going to be new, right? That would be true. It's going to be new that I'm going to open myself up to receiving. I don't really know how to do this. I'm going to look for people who have already done it really well and see if they're like if they have any clues to offer me. Um, but anyway, like I said, guys, next time. Oh, and is anyone interested in, like I said, having a meditation open the live stream in the future? Oh boy, the trolls are trolling in. Oh, I can't wait till next time when we don't have to deal with this. But anyway, okay. Yeah, anyone who I've talked to today about different stuff. Okay, and another thing, watch out for what people say. Oh, I never cared. Well, and another, okay, two things for high level ranked people. Yeah, they might not have cared about the ranking. They were so focused on the thing that they love. Like I said earlier, right, about the Olympians. They're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it." Because they're not focused on that thing, because if you're looking at the high ranking to show you that you're high ranking, they just moved in and put their god, this person is like so intense. They put their energy on thoughts and feelings and being. They're being the high level. They're not using extra other people's um qualifications to show them they're high ranking. They are high ranking. That's how they're acting and being and feeling. So if they say they don't care, sometimes people also too downplay the emotional. Oh, okay, great. Yes to meditation. Yeah, I'm trying to block them, and then they. I don't know. We're probably going to wrap it up soon, but I want to finish on this last thought. So two lines of thoughts. People who are like, I never cared about that, that can be true. The Olympians, the high level people, they're moving and thinking in the state of being, right? They're having thoughts and feelings and actions in accordance to this. They're not looking out here. So they might not have cared about here. But if you look at it, they're in alignment with that, right? So if you're looking outside for the ranking that um, to show you that you are valid or that you're high ranking, then you're waiting for that and you're always going to see the reflection that you're not. The other thing too is sometimes people downplay um, their work that they've done because maybe they're embarrassed or they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to share where they started. That's okay. But just be aware of that when people are saying that. Focus on you, focus on your thoughts and feelings. Who would you need to be that high ranking gamer and that sort of thing. But all right, guys, that's it for today. Like I said, in the future, we're going to have a meditation exercise kind of vibe warm up, and it will be subscribers only. So we won't have situations on the side. I appreciate your patience and your compassion and your love and your dedication and for being here and for being part of this community and this family. And I love you guys. Have a great Saturday.